Okay, here we are now at video number 28. And for this video, I decided to do a bit of a deeper dive. So, I hear a lot of people saying that scripture can be used to interpret scripture. So, that's what I'm going to attempt to do in this video. And you'll have to listen carefully and decide for yourself if scripture is indeed interpreting scripture. So I'm going to read out of Daniel chapter 7. I'm going to read about the fourth beast, the fearsome and terrible beast with the 10 horns. And when I read this scripture, I want you to listen very carefully to the nouns and adjectives being used. And then we'll go read another scripture, and I'm going to ask you to compare those same nouns and adjectives being used. Because if we're living in the final part of the days, we should now be able to identify this fourth, fearsome, terrible beast described in Daniel chapter 7 and understand what it is. Right? So, I'll start in Daniel chapter 7, and I'm going to elucidate the nouns and adjectives that I come across so that hopefully you'll remember them when we go to read the parallel scripture that might indicate what that fourth terrible, fearsome, wild beast really is. So, listen carefully. I'll start in Daniel chapter 7, verse 19. Then it was that I desired to make certain concerning the fourth beast, which proved to be different from all the others, extraordinarily fearsome. The teeth, which is a noun, the teeth of which were of iron, and the claws, another noun, claws, of which were of copper, which was devouring. That's an adjective. And crushing. That's another adjective. And which was treading. Another adjective. Treading down even what was left with its feet. That's a noun. And concerning the 10 horns that were on its head. So, you got all those nouns remembered in your head? Crushing, devouring, teeth, claws, ripping. Imagine a wild beast. So, now you've got a picture in your head of what that wild beast is with all those nouns and adjectives. So now I'll go read another scripture and I want you to compare it. You ready? So here we go. You still have a good picture of that fearsome and terrible beast in Daniel chapter 7? Okay, so now I'm going to read Micah chapter 3. Listen carefully. And I proceeded to say, "Hear, please, you heads of Jacob, and you commanders of the house of Israel. Is it not your business to know justice? You haters of what is good and lovers of badness, tearing off their skin from people and their organism from off their bones. You the ones who have also eaten the organism of my people and have stripped their very skin from off them and smashed to pieces their very bones and crushed them to pieces like what is in a wide-mouthed pot and like flesh in the midst of a cooking pot." So, what do you think? Does Scripture interpret Scripture? So, this is the situation described in Micah chapter 3. Immediately before the situation that begins to occur in the final part of the days in Micah chapter 4. Let me read that for you. I'll skip down and read that. "And it must occur in the final part of the days that the mountain of the house of Jehovah will become firmly established above the top of the mountains, and it will certainly be lifted up above the hills, and to it peoples must stream." So, is Micah chapter 3 describing the situation that could be found immediately before God's kingdom is established? The fourth terrible, fearsome beast that exists at the end, right before God's kingdom? So, I myself, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I saw some truly horrific injustices occur in my own kingdom hall. And so now, and people from those injustices, people were terribly hurt, damaged from injustices happening inside the kingdom hall, the supposed spiritual paradise that the governing body told me I was living in through attending those 5 meetings a week. And so now, after watching thousands of ex-Jehovah's Witness testimonies that I can find all over YouTube, I'm finding the same things. People are describing some truly horrific things that have caused enormous amount of damage to innocent people. And yet here in Micah chapter 3, it says, "Is it not your business to know justice?" So, through watching those thousands of ex-Jehovah's Witness testimonies that I'm finding every day now on YouTube, new ones, This is describing, in Micah chapter 3, exactly the sentiments that I get from watching those videos. They are the ones who are supposed to know justice. And yet I see all these innocent people. People being sexually abused. Children suffering from pedophilia from even elders in the congregations. And the elders getting away scot-free. Is it not their business to know justice? Sisters being sexually abused, even raped by brothers, and then told you have to keep quiet. I'm sure you've all watched those videos. They're horrific. The injustices I saw in my own kingdom hall don't even compare to what I've listened to on YouTube. I get angry watching them. I've even cried watching testimony from ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Unbelievable, the injustices being perpetrated by the governing body and the elders and the presiding overseers and the circuit overseers in congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses all around the world. Is it not their business to know justice? So, isn't the Bible here describing exactly what we hear is really happening? So, here's what I'm going to suggest. Yeah, perhaps Scripture can interpret Scripture, but what about real evidences that we can see happening? Inside the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, inside the Kingdom Halls. What about the real world evidences? Can we match what we are actually seeing and hearing from testimonies now being given all over the internet to what it says here in Micah chapter 3? Scripture interprets Scripture. But then also, look at the evidences. Is what the Bible said would happen really happening? Was that deep dive just a little bit too much? I recommend you go and read those same scriptures in Daniel chapter 7 and also in Micah. Write down a list of the nouns and adjectives and use several different Bible translations and see if you can match them up. Does Scripture interpret Scripture? And then do the real world evidences that exist now. Here, we can go and watch them on YouTube. Do they match? Is what the Bible said would happen really happening? And yet now we are in the final part of the days. And God's kingdom is being manifested. Christians are being born again. Their grief is being turned into joy. We're out of that place of darkness. We're being brought into His wonderful light.